My friend Al Jennings called me when he got to LA. He was in a penthouse apartment in downtown. Uh, he was there with Adrotica. She had been with him in the airplane. She did the implants. She's a neurosurgeon with an undergraduate degree in psychology. It was just Adrotica and Al and the pilot and the co-pilot. And the co-pilot came back to assist Adrotica during the process if she needed him. And they gave him a sedative, like when you're taking off in an airplane, you're offered a drink. So a bit of grogginess uh, for the operation. And then when they landed, they continued keeping Al sedated for the first 48 hours. Those are the critical hours. And then Erotica was with him in the penthouse apartment because she's responsible to see that he gets the brain healthy nourishment that's so important in this. Well, it's important throughout the 2 weeks where the implant begins to grow its electrodes in the brain. But for the first 48 hours, it's all fresh fruit and nuts. And Adrotic is there by his bedside as his physician to keep track of his vital signs and do a complete physical and an assessment of how well he's adapting to the implants. And then being a psychologist, she knows the right questions to ask to see if he's maintaining a good mental state throughout this transition. And then I know this because Al has called me he called me, and then in our conversation, Adrotica took the phone and said that she needed to spend some time with Al personally because she needed to talk over a few things, and that was where anyway, so she said she'd call me the next day, and that's how my conversations with Adrotica began, and that's how but they went out to dinner that night at a restaurant that specialized in not the vegan food, but the kind of food that's not cooked at all. There's a restaurant in St. Augustine, the Present Moment, where they don't cook any food. Their cashew ice cream is fantastic, but they also make pizza and even sushi. How I know I'm not there's an immense amount of preparation and skill in putting these kind of dishes together that aren't cooked at all, but they're entirely vegan, and that's because during the 2 week period of the transition, they want to get a new stomach biome established, and you do that by putting this food through the system. The stomach biome, if you've done research on the internet, you'll know that the stomach biome and the brain healthy food are all contributing factors to good brain health. So, you know, anyway, they go out to the restaurant, and Adrotica has to tell Al that his house is burned down, that his wife is dead. She was found in bed with another man. They thought it was Al, and that's a tremendous blow, but she's a skilled counselor in grief counseling. But naturally, she reaches out and touches his hand, and that's where there's a bit of electricity. And then she's very empathetic I mean, the guy just lost his wife, and he found out that she's with another guy. He begins, through that evening at dinner, he begins connecting the dots in their relationship, and realizes that this has been going on for some time, but he's been in a state of denial. Adrotica helps him do that throughout the evening. They return back to the apartment together, and she has the adjoining apartment because she's the attending physician on call 24/7. So there's an embrace, and with the embrace and the hug, she can't help but reach out and kiss him on the cheek. But there's a simple turn of the heads, and then their lips meet, and then the earth shakes, bells ring. I don't know just how. they're not. It's all in your head, and then she actually faints, sort of from, and then he catches her, and then they kind of end up in bed, and then there's a natural position where she is laying on his shoulder, and his arm is around her, and her leg is over his thigh, and they just, I mean, it's a tragic evening, but in another way, their romance began. And spending the night entangled that way, waking up the next morning, and that's why in the 9 days that she spent at Al, she decides to be implanted herself, and that's how the story begins. Where she comes back up, she goes out on the airplane herself for another trip with some other physicians to have. So she comes back to the apartment, and now after 2 weeks of attending to Al and his recovery and adaptation to the implants, it's his turn to take care of Adrotica for the 2 weeks. Thank you. Bye.